À nouveau, une table ronde, un atelier plutôt qui se déroule ici même dans cette salle. Donc il s'agit de l'atelier numéro 16 sur les technologies innovantes. Je rappelle qu'il y a un autre atelier, un étage au-dessus, sur le thème de la mobilité verte. I would like now to hand over to Colin Hensley in order to moderate this workshop.
Thank you, Laurent. Welcome everybody to this afternoon's workshop. This workshop is on innovation and the technologies that we need to ensure that the vehicles in the future suit the needs of the customers, but also provide additional services and value to them in their daily lives. My name's Colin Hensley. I spent 15 years in Toyota, the first 9 in research and development, the second 6 in communications and media relations, including the little 2010 recall that many of you will remember. But it's not about, in the afternoon, it's not about Toyota. This afternoon, it's about the technologies and the innovation, and I have a very good panel to present to you for this afternoon. And I would like to move from your right, from my left, Mr. Sylvain Alano, who is the Scientific Director at PSA Peugeot Citroën. Mr. Bertrand Stellande, who is the Head of Design and Innovation Europe for Visteon. So we have representation from OEMs and first-tier suppliers. Moving to the other side, we change a little bit. Mr. Brian Coleman, who is the Industry Head Automotive Top Accounts at Google. And Nia Siegel, who is an independent vehicle designer. And I won't say more than that because what he has to say will be very interesting for you anyway. So without any further ado, I'd like to immediately pass the floor to Sylvain, who will talk a little bit about his role in the activities of PSA Peugeot Citroën. Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. My task within PSA Peugeot Citroën is to detect and prepare technologies for the future of mobility systems. We have a team, a research team. We have open labs. I will explain to you what are open labs. And we have to address 3 challenges. These 3 challenges are here. The first one is the question of urban mobility. As you know, 2 years ago, it was the first time that more people live in urban areas than people living in rural areas. So urban mobility is the main challenge for the next years. The second challenge to address is the question of the environmental impact. As you know, it's a societal problem, issue, a very important also physical issue, and we have to provide the future vehicles with very clean and pure propulsion systems. The third challenge is relates to our customers. What do they expect from a mobility system? What are their quest for the mobility? It's not so easy. And within this challenge, we also address the question of the autonomous and connected vehicles. So to prepare this future, we have to be quite out of the box. Because if we maintain our referentials, our standards, how to manufacture, how to manage a manufacturing plant, we can't go to the future. We have to be quite disruptive in our vision. But these 3 challenges result in questions that we address like that. For example, you can represent the vehicle of the future as an information and energy systems. Inside, there are humans. It's the question, yes. Going from a point A to point B for humans. This is their main expectation. And this mobility system is also an information system and an energy system. To become a real information system, you have to integrate in this mobility unit a means for processing the information, for collecting the information, processing, and providing the passengers, but also the infrastructure with reliable information. But it's also an energy system. As an energy system, you have to address the question of new energy systems, but not only the electricity vector. We can study other vectors than electricity. It can be thermodynamic vectors, for example, but without carbon. This is the key point, how to design and to create a new propulsion system with a long range, but without carbon, fossil or not fossil. We have also a big task relating to physics, the physics optimization. Not only aerodynamics, this question is quite correctly addressed now, but physics within the mobility unit. Up to large-scale vision, for example, microphysics, but also mesophysics. And And you have also to study new mechanical structures. Perhaps in the future, the car will not be made from hard material. We could imagine cars made with soft materials. The soft matter is a very interesting field to study. And now, how do we do that? All physical topics have to be addressed. Information sciences, physics, energy sciences, biology. Biology is a very important topic for the future of mobility. Biology is the main driver for new bioenergy systems. For example, using biomass, but also using energy provided by energy harvesting devices. We can also study biofuels. But biology is also important for the question of the human factors. The human factors, it's at the intersection of information sciences and biology. This place is the main place for the question, for the issue, all the issues which will be raised in the topic of autonomous and connected vehicles. My opinion is that there is no real technical problem to design an autonomous vehicle. Many people do that. You can see that on the web. It's not so difficult. But the main issue is the human factor issue, which results also in legal issues. But you have also to control the information flux. And this question, our colleague of Google will be more efficient to explain that, the question of the information control for a car. A car mobility system, mobility unit, will be a node of a global information network in the future. And this is a main challenge for us, conventional car manufacturers. But the chemical sciences are at the center of all the topics that we address. Why? Because with chemistry, combined to physics and biology, we can design new materials. And new materials will permit to create new structures for the vehicle. All that. There is also the question of human sciences, social sciences, cognitive sciences relating to the human factor. And you have also to think of the future for the factories. The fact in 20 years, when you visit a car manufacturing factory, you will be surprised. It will be quite different from what you see now in conventional. Even the robots will not work as they do presently. They will be cobots. They will be collaborative tools with human operators. Okay, all that. We have to address all these questions. We have organized our research in main poles, these poles, and we have created an international research network called STELLab, Science Technologies Exploratory Lean Lab. It's an open innovation initiative. It's based, you can see the 6 main topics: cognitive, interactivity, connectivity, computational mechanics, physics, and we have created in France a local network within campuses, engineering schools, universities, and an international ring, mainly in China, for the reasons that you know. Our future is being created in China, and but also in Brazil, for example, for biofuels, in the USA for materials and process at Georgia Tech. Here. So in these open labs, we share a scientific program with academics. We share also the intellectual property, and we share the same vision to out of the box to design new mobility systems. And we have our own in Vélizy, in our research and development center in Vélizy. We have our own integration process from the open labs here to the vehicle for the future. This is our network, international network. We are opening a new innovation cell in Singapore. We have already an innovation cell in Switzerland, in Lausanne, just here, in the Quartier de l'Innovation, here. Okay. And in China, we have 5 open labs who work with us in for example, for the autonomous vehicle. It's at the Peking University. We have also in Beirang University, Huazhong in Wuhan, Tongji University for accidentology and human-machine interface, and Shanghai Jiaotong for energy storage. Thank you for the attention. My main conclusion: we have to be agile, we have to be efficient, we have no more time, we have to be very quick, and also we have to be optimistic, because we feel that the mobility, individual mobility systems have a future. But what I ask to my researchers and to my engineers is to be simple, very important to be simple, to limit the number of parts within the car. Simplicity, technology, and human sciences. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sylvain. A very interesting opening for us to see just the whole globalization of the idea of innovation. And I think also very kindly finishing the presentation talking about optimism and being quick. And I think that links us very well to Nir Sigal, who is a young automotive designer who would like to present his vision, a little bit of the future.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. My name is Nir again. I started out working as an industrial designer and now an automotive designer. I work within the industry, but I am here representing myself and my work on my master thesis project at the Royal College of Art in London. And like the doctor said, we really have to be optimistic. And my job at the industry as well is to put the optimism cap on and be naive even. After today's presentation, some might regard me as naive, but I'm fine with that if it's my job to be. And so I will very briefly kind of introduce to you a very conceptual project that is basically a vehicle that builds itself. And I know when you think about this, it sounds like science fiction, but you have to think about the world we live in, which is already very science fiction-ish. You know, you have robots on Mars, you have the Da Vinci medical system that can operate on people, you have 3D printing and a lot of other technologies. And I'm sure that if you ask a man in the desert 100 years ago, what sounds more science fiction? 5 robots building a car or 1 car that builds itself? So we are already pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and we just need to really keep on doing that so we can keep moving forward. And the point of this project really is it is an opportunity to think about something new. You know, we need to continue to innovate, and we need to continue to dream about the future, because if we cannot think up new ideas, no one eventually will be able to engineer or design them. So this project is really about that optimism and about really finding something new and introducing a new playground, if you will, for design or for humans to think about and interact. And of course, just by starting to think about a car that could build itself, it comes up with a totally new story, a totally new scenario where it has a lot of different new sub-stories and opportunities to design around and to, you know, new problems really to try and think about solving. So this sort of car, if you want to call it a car, could basically build itself in your garage. And what this would mean is that you would eventually be much more in interaction with how the thing is made, and therefore have a much more emotional connection to the product, and hopefully it could evolve with you and you can keep it for longer. So these are really just mood images that I wanted you to that allow you to kind of step into this conceptual world. And really, it is unexplored territory. I mean, if you think about the possibilities that we have already today with technologies such as 3D printing and computer-aided design and the internet and the immense chains of logistics that we have, we can really start to think about totally new stuff. And when I was working on this project, I forgot to mention it was sponsored by Audi, and when we were working together and I started just sketching what does it look like? What is it? Is it big? Is it small? How can we move in the city around it? You know, the interior, can you customize it? Can you use your technology? Can you 3D print a smartphone? Do you need to 3D print a smartphone? Maybe you can use your own technology to put in the car. And therefore, there's a lot of innovation that came up, even simple as structural materials, plastics, glass, metal, semiconductors, all that kind of stuff we can do, and already some of it we can even 3D print. And this is very basic because I don't have a lot of time to go into details, but the idea was that you really get the car sort of delivered to your house like a box, and a 3D printing robot will deploy itself and start according to your kind of specification on your application through your iPad or your computer, and even it could scan you and see what size of car you need. If you have 2 kids and a dog, then you need a bigger car, and if you just yourself and your girlfriend or partner, then you need a smaller car. And then the interaction with the company you could get source the materials from them, source the geometries from them. All of the kind of engineering process would be done, you know, in collaboration with the company, and they will supply the resins or the plastics or whatever it is that the car uses, that your specific car needs. They will deliver it like you deliver basically IKEA furniture. And of course, at the end, you will need some parts that will be delivered separately, and you can help build the car and attach it together. And my point is really just to keep people's mind open to the possibilities, change. You know, this is not maybe the technology behind this project, even though theoretically it's possible, it's still a few years away. And I know that regulation and legislation is maybe decades away, but just as an academic conceptual exercise, it provides a lot of insight, a lot of optimism, and a place for innovation. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Nir. I think it does open your eyes when you think, well, maybe there's another way to look at it. And we spend a lot of time online ordering things, so maybe we'll just go online and order our car. I'm a bit worried about it arriving in pieces and then having to build it from there. I spent some time working in homologation, so getting the type approval might be a bit tricky, but hey, unless you start imagining it, then it will never become anything. Which is a good point to turn to Bertrand, because he is imagining it, and he is in a first-tier supplier that is producing the parts and will be producing the parts and components for the future. So the floor is yours, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. I feel very good. Thank you, Sylvain, yes, to ask me to be naive and optimistic. I feel very good. People who knows me exactly know that I will feel very comfortable playing that game. But it's not only to be naive or optimistic because we are in a blue sky world. It's because this is the only way to be efficient in innovation and creation of vehicles. So who we are? I just have 2 slides about Visteon, but just more to say who we are not. We are not PSA, we are not Toyota, we are not Renault, we are not Ford, but we need to innovate in our products. So we are a global company, we are around 50,000 people all over the world, so this is just about figures, but this is not what is important. And what do we supply? We supply just some parts in the vehicle. And our biggest fear is to innovate on products that won't match the need of mobility and automotive in the future. So we need to play in the game of automotive, and even if we are not an OEM, even if we are not really, if we are just suppliers or partners, we need to play on this game. So we supply all the climate system, all the electronics and interior. So I will talk about, give some direction on how this product could take a new direction in the future. We are global. I'm leading the European part of it, but automotive in US is just the same word as automotive in Europe, but it's completely a different system. It's completely a different concept. So that's the reason why we are split in the different regions to be very close to the market, very close to the consumers, and it will be stupid for us to design in Europe a car for India or for China. So we work with our colleagues. We have conflict and discussion with our colleagues really to create together in a different way. So the only thing we want to share is the global knowledge. As specifically a scientific point of view, knowledge somewhere is available everywhere in the world, but the needs, the usage, cities are different. So the way to do that, we first of all, we don't innovate alone. We can't. So we want to be just a partner of innovation. We are in a completely open innovation world, and as you can see on the slide, we start from people. So we start with imagining what people want. So we ask them, like everybody does. We ask what people want, but it's not enough. Because if you just ask what people want now, they won't say what they will need in 10 years, in 20 years. So it's good to know, but it's, of course, you need to forget it and to bring your own vision. So we are not, we don't have 1,000 people to think about the future, but we have a future analysis because we need to. The worst thing in the future projection is to consider that the future will be the same as now. It's much better to have a wrong vision than no vision, because that drives you and forces you to go innovation. So we bring this kind of new vision. So this is a little bit the think tank we are working on. And after that, we create different people, persona, future people that we invent ourselves, and we create experience for them, concept. We create product around them, and we work with all our engineers, partners and engineers internally to really make it. And after that, we use this platform to share with all our stakeholders, partners, and OEM to discuss with. So that's really our process. I will show just an example about what we are doing. And our project is not only what is the solution, but it's more what is the question. So we start a project about, okay, how life will be in 2020, where we will be living, what will be the cities, what will be the urbanization, what will be our mobility. So innovation is not only innovate on bringing solution, is searching and giving directions to look at and to ask the right question. The most important is, do we ask ourselves the right question? Not only what is the solution. The question and the challenges to face are for us much more important. So these are the questions. After that, we say, okay, let's create different people. So we create people in 2020 or 2030 from Europe, US, India. US guy has been created by our US colleague. Chinese person has been created in Shanghai, and also some people in India. So that's really the way we work. And after that, mixing with our engineers and designers, we just create experiences for them before talking about the product. So it's more about asking engineers and designers not to engineer, not to design, but just think about people, creating experience, creating new mobility, and do not design or do not engineer too early. So we just imagine how would it be to experience the car being out of the car, using ride sharing, car sharing, not only that you are a user of car sharing, but your car, you can share it with others. So you can make money with it, you can use it. How we have a multimodality also to use the car as one part of the mobility. How the car is immediately like a computer or a cell phone. When you get in, it's your car and your cell phone, and you are not in the car of Mr. Audi, but you are really in your car. How you interact with the city, and you have really all the location-based services. How do we bring, we work a lot in audio and acoustic, how we just have this experience of your kids can sleep in the car and you can listen to audio. So this is really user-driven innovation, and after that we'll bring the technology later. Of course, all the car-to-car communication and the infrastructure is really a part of it, and the new life on board. So that's really all the experiences we want to create and to have a complete interaction. So you can see here, we don't really have technology, we just have people living, we just want to imagine new experiences, and only after that we try to bring technologies to make this possible. One I love is to consider that the car is not only a car that you use while driving, but it will be a car that could be a resource for you, that it will be your mobile address, and you can be delivered of new Amazon goods directly to your car. So it's a new usage and change completely the perspective and give new reason to innovate on technology and to create vehicles. So that's really our process, our platform to play with. But now need to bring technology to make this happen, otherwise it's just a concept. So the good stuff is really to mix what is feasible with what we dream. So some technologies on what we are working on, and that will give direction on what will be the future. It's about electronic, and to be the electronic connected to internal and exterior of the car. So that's really one of the key directions we give to is new electronic architecture and electronic system in the car. The second one is what we call the UI.cockpit, but it's a software. What is a software architecture? To be open and to be compatible with automotive and compatible with all our connected life and with the speed of the changes of the connected life. So all the open architecture as an enabler. Passenger interface, we've always been thinking about driver, but we want to think first about all passengers. The car is sharing a journey, is like sharing a meal. It's a fantastic experience. How we can all experience together, like in my old Chevaux, one guy reading a map, another one playing with a tape player, and the other one driving. How do we use new technology to have this new kind of experience about all living together? And of course, the driver interface with all this augmented reality and enhanced safety and reducing driver distraction. So these are the direction we take on electronics. On climate, it's also very important. The comfort on board, obviously, one of the big things we work on is air quality, not only the air temperature, but all the air quality. We talk a lot about pollution. Last week, a very difficult story about a child with a really health issue about pollution in China. So air quality is key, how we really play with this on climate. So we move from thermal to air quality. The smart energy management, Climate system in a car is awful. We use a lot of energy, much more than HVAC in our home, specifically in north of France here. So we use a lot of energy. And how also to give freedom to OEM to package the cars the way they want without any constraint on the climate system. Interiors, this is the last one also. How do we give freedom with completely new architecture to push the wall, to have more room in the vehicle? One thing we were talking about EQ, but about airbag, new location, new HVAC location, how we give more freedom. The second point is ultra personalization is one of the key things we are working on. How car, this is what we talked this morning, car is a mass market. Yes and no. I don't buy a mass market. I buy my car, I buy my product. So the big stuff in the future will be how you have a mass market, yes, but you are in a blue jean strategy. We all have blue jeans, but you don't have two pairs of blue jeans that are the same. And the same for the iPhone. So how the car is really going to be super personalized, and of course the sustainable material. So some directions. So here we tackle a little bit like a new, in the blue one, the new life on board and mobility. These are really the opportunities for innovation. And what are the next one really we want to work on? Internet of Things. Internet of Things means that the car will need to connect with all this quickly changing world. It's about time management. All have done a very good job in plants, in engineering, to have a car that can age, you can use it for 20 years, but your life in 20 years will change, your connectivity stuff will change, the usage will change, so how do we tackle this one? And the autonomous and self-driving, for me the 21st century will be the century of drones. Self-driving is a car can be a drone. That is able to move without you, to move with you inside, and will change completely the way we'll use it. So that's for me one of the key directions in new usage with the self-driving. It's not only about safety, but it's about doing something else with the car. And there is always a question mark because we don't know what will be the new driver in the future. So how to design car for something we don't know. So this is really for me the most important thing, how to innovate for a future that for sure we don't know. Thank you.
I think it was a fascinating insight into the thinking that goes into the, future looking. It's a hard thing to do. And one of I think a relevant point there was talking about ultra personalization and understanding the customer's needs and wants. And I think we could probably all name a company that seems to know pretty well what we're thinking, because those little things that come up down the side of the Google search seem to reflect what it is we've been thinking and looking for. So I would like to hand over to Brian Coleman. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, a lot of you are probably wondering, what on earth is Google doing here? Let me just quickly explain a little bit about my background and what I do at Google, because it's the first question that everybody I've met today has asked. I spent, before joining Google nearly 3 years ago, over a dozen years in the automotive industry, a number of those with Boston Consulting in Munich, where my clients were exclusively automotive, German automotive manufacturers, and then about 8 years with Toyota, working for Didier and company in a variety of sales, marketing, and even finance roles before I joined Google, where basically they said, Brian, what we want you to do is to work with our biggest automotive customers who are based in Europe or who have very large European operations, and help their senior management teams understand how all of the work we're doing, whether it's the internet in general or various platforms that Google is developing and creating, be it YouTube or be it marketing tools like DoubleClick and all kinds of other technology, help them understand how they can make better use of those tools, those platforms. So my role is a little bit like a consultant. I sit with senior executives from a variety of automotive companies, just about all of them really in Europe, and talk to them about how they can do a better job or what they could do, whether it's in sales and marketing or whether it's in other activities, for example, onboard electronics applications and so on. And I do want to spend a little bit of time essentially talking about the question of the customer. And if I can figure out how this little piece of technology works, I will do so. So I see this is my framework, and we've seen a couple of others, Sylvain and Bertrand have also presented some, I see three big areas of innovation in my work. That doesn't mean these are the only three that are out there, but these are the three that I see the most often. One is the car itself, right? And that is all kinds of activities, environmental work, all sorts of, whether it's self-printing, self-making cars, which I'm still trying to get my head around, or what have you. There's obviously a lot of innovation continuing to go on. I would say hybrid and electric cars, of course, are another area where there's a lot of innovation. I also see emerging how cars are owned. Do I buy a car and own it and put it in my garage in Paris and leave it there and take it out twice a year? Do I rent it? Do I walk up to one of these little e-car chargers on the streets in Paris and drive it around for the afternoon? Or how do I really address that issue, which we now call mobility? And I think that's a very fascinating area that we're only just starting to get a hold of, and poses a big threat and a lot of questions to many automotive manufacturers in this room today. And then finally, where I want to spend the rest of my time, although I'm happy in the Q&A session later to talk about the first two, is the issue of how cars are bought and sold, and how people today are really dramatically changing, and the implications that has for the automotive industry, because it's pretty big. And there's a lot of room for innovation without necessarily the need for lots of R&D, because it's right in front of us today, but we're not reacting to it. So the question I like to ask a lot of our big clients, and our big clients, when I mean, let's be honest, who are they? They're Ford, they're General Motors, they're Renault, they're Peugeot, Citroën, they're Toyota, et cetera, who we work with together with, of course, their suppliers. So let me just share a few figures from research that we've been doing for, well, I shouldn't say we've been doing, but commissioning and obviously using some of our own data, which is exhaustive, to try to understand what's going on out there with customers. Because a lot is changing. And some of the models that we work with, I say we, I mean auto, I still think of myself as an auto guy, that we work with. Some of these you may know, some of these you may not. But when somebody starts buying a car, 71%, and these figures are from 22 different countries around the world. So all of the major European countries, the United States, but also the BRICS countries, other very small countries like Singapore, et cetera. So it's a global figure, and obviously there's a variety. 71% people start out the process, and they haven't made up their mind of what model or brand they want to buy. And I can raise my hand and say, as somebody who spent all those years in the auto industry and thought I knew everything, when I left Toyota and had therefore been driving Toyotas for a number of years, I needed to buy my own car, I thought I knew what I was going to buy. And I can tell you that what I wound up buying not only wasn't what I thought I was going to buy, it wasn't even in the same segment as what I thought I was going to buy. And that's from somebody who knows the industry. So imagine your average customer who's confronted with this overwhelming amount of information. And as we all know, the sheer variety of cars that are available on the market today is not what it was when I bought my first car in 1986. So it's a big change just in terms of models. When they're doing this, what are they doing? I mean, over 90%, 93 to be exact, use the internet. And I just want to share, I'm not going to go into details on that. I think we all know people use the internet, right? 64% of those car buyers globally are looking at or sharing social content as part of their purchase process. That means they're on Facebook and they're on YouTube and Twitter and Pinterest and heaven knows what else, sharing information and reading information about cars. Right? And there's a lot out there, and I'm not sure we're all really aware of what's going on. And I don't know if any real innovation, sales, and marketing technology is happening there. No, I do know it's very little. 4 hours. More than half, close to 60% of the customers will try to contact a manufacturer or a dealer online. They expect a response within 4 hours on average. Okay? I know of only one manufacturer that has in their KPIs response time to online requests. Now, I'm not saying there's not more than one, but only one has told me that, yes, we have that KPI, and I ask everybody. So if we're going to talk about innovation, and I know the discussion so far has been about innovation in terms of manufacturing and product development, let me allow some innovation in our sales and marketing processes need to be done as well. How are you going to do that? That's a big challenge. Whoops, I've jumped ahead accidentally. 42% of customers, the first time they walk into a dealership is when they've already reached their final choice. And they are simply there to make sure that the car they're thinking of buying is in fact what they thought it was based on all the research they do. So, you know, is it as nice as it looked on the web? Is the seat comfortable? Does the boot space suit their needs? We had a big discussion about boot space before. You know, is it what they thought it was? It's a confirmation visit only, which is remarkable. And again, I think if I know the industry well, everybody I see is worried about getting dealership traffic and so on. I would ask, is that the right KPI? Yes, you're probably not going to sell the car without getting somebody into the dealer, but they're probably not coming until well down the road. Again, begs the questions about how we're communicating with our customers. 38% of those people who walk into a dealership are using this while they're there. 38%. That number is growing for obvious reasons as people use these more and more for everything. Imagine being the salesman trying to sell to that customer. You know, good luck. You know, I know when I was at Toyota, we had salesmen saying, I don't know how to sell the Prius sometimes because customers know more about it than we do. 27% of customers don't take or want a test drive. That's a global figure, and it's an average. In some markets, in Europe, it's up to 40%. Again, this is a very popular KPI that we like to use in the industry, test drives. But if 40% of your customers don't want one, I'm not saying it's not a useful thing to do and to provide, and I'm not saying it's not a useful thing to measure, but is that really how you want to sell a car? What do your customers want? If they don't want it, my wife bought a car 2 years ago, did not want a test drive. She did not test drive it. She was offered by 2 different dealers a test drive, no interest. And she's not unusual. I know people who bought high-end Mercedes-Benz cars. This number does vary by segment. You bring out a city car that's common, let's say a Volkswagen Polo, people know it's been around for a long time. They're not afraid to drive it without testing it. You bring out a brand new car that's a crossover that nobody's seen before, I don't know, like a Nissan Juke or something like that, yeah, people will want to test it. And the average number of test drives is just over 2, and that's been coming down dramatically in the last number of years. And in fact, it hides the statistical reality, again, let's talk about data and averages, that you do have a number of people who take 5, 6 test drives, so the people who love this process, love to test drive cars. And then you've got a lot of people, like I said, as many as 40% who do 0. And that number is growing. So the reason that 2.1 figure has come down from over 3 just 4 years ago is because more and more people just aren't taking the test drives. It's a hassle. So, I'm supposed to be talking about innovation, and I'm basically saying your customers, our customers, are innovating in the way they shop. They're innovating in the way they get their information. They're using online videos, they're using their smartphones, they're not using the dealers anymore, they're using their social networks. They've completely changed their behavior, and that change is only accelerating. And when you think about it, there's a lot of data that makes available to the auto industry. And it's not just Google that has it all, although we do. But the manufacturers and third parties have a lot of data that's out there. So I often wonder, if I'm a manufacturer, do I know what's the most popular color on my car configurator on my website? And is it changing by seasons? Do I know if I use this configuration on a web page versus that configuration, I might drive people to a different model? Do I know which platforms are going to produce the highest value customers? By platform, I mean, let's be blunt, does Facebook drive a higher buying customer or a customer willing to spend than, let's say, Auto Plus website? And where do I want to position myself? Do I know this? I don't know any manufacturer who can answer that question positively today. And let's step away from the data that I talk about to the data that's in the car today. A lot of vehicles, we know how many computer chips and so on are in these cars. They're collecting all kinds of information, and in many cases, that data can and is being remotely transmitted to manufacturers. What's being done with that? There's a tremendous possibility to innovate both in terms of new product development, in terms of marketing, in terms of communications, not just marketing, but communications with customers, service, after sales. Again, I'm not aware of too many people who are doing it. It's a big challenge. It's all there. The data is there. It's not creative. Which begs the following question, and it's ultimately the big question I like to ask is, do we have in the industry the people and processes who can react at digital speed? As somebody who spent a dozen years in the automotive industry, I doubt it in most cases. The auto industry works on these kind of 5-year product cycles. If you're really good, maybe using an existing platform, you can do it in 3. Again, we were discussing beforehand, mobile phone manufacturers are working on 6 months. Web developers are working on much less than that. I know from clients that I work with that just for them to change a web page is a multi-week process, which is nonsense. But we all have our bureaucracy and our red tape. We need to rip that up, and we need to rethink our people, our processes internally if we're going to be able to help, understand what our customers are doing. The potential is enormous. And customers I talk about are doing things differently. I just want to close with a little video. We see a lot of online buying. I know everybody thinks, still 98, 99% of customers go through dealerships. And ultimately, that's true, and I don't see that changing immediately. But we do see a lot of companies experimenting with online sales. And I want to show you one example. I'm biased. I work for Google. This is a Google example from a Google platform of somebody who worked with a dealer, configured a car, and bought it online.
Steve, appreciate you showing up here.
This is
pretty cool, huh? So.
That's the client.
Yeah, so nice to meet you. So had you been familiar with Colonial, or you just ended up searching some socially oriented...
This is Boston, Massachusetts.
Exactly. I searched...
Hey Daniel, give me the link to the Colonial and I'll throw it up in the center screen there.
Okay.
There's a third voice of somebody who's recording
this new one, or you just saw it at the auto show and kind of were like, I like the look?
No, I've been doing research on it. I went online like I did that configurator.
So the reason I asked about research, and just as a preface...
You're the perfect person I want to talk.
What model
is that? This is just a 1-minute film. The whole thing is 45 minutes.
GLS? Have you hung out before? Just out of curiosity?
Just a little bit.
But as long as you're pretty, reasonable with us in terms of what you're expecting to get for that, I can sell you our car for invoice. Sound reasonable?
Yeah, no, perfect. That's brilliant. That's like exactly what I was looking for. If you could go, like, I'll wave, you wave. I'm going to take a little screenshot. Okay.
As far as I know, you'll be the first person to ever buy a vehicle or commit to one or even shop for one.
I'm going to hold this up.
Share selected windows. Pop this up so we don't go into tunnel vision. Let me know when you can see that, Steve. Build.
It's good because there's not many choices really, and then the silver, which not that silver, but the other one.
Xenon were part of the wheel package. Red and black, or the blue and black.
Well, let's do the first one.
Okay. Well, super cool, man. Really pleasure meeting you. I look forward to continuing this dialogue.
Thanks a lot. This is awesome.
So just to give you an example, a lot of companies, a lot of sales vice presidents, and a lot of dealers are scared of that. But that's an example of a dealer who very proactively is out there looking on social websites to get customers and is succeeding at doing that. And so the challenge, I think, is there's so much data and possibility for innovation, not just in the production of the cars and so on, but also in how we communicate with our customers, that I don't think we're even tapping the smallest tip of the iceberg yet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. I think it was interesting. Over the last 4 presentations, I think we've seen, to some extent, a convergence of the industries. We've seen the way that data is coming to the fore and be very important, and the way that you communicate with the car and the car communicates. But then suddenly when we come to the customer, we see this divergence. How are we going to convince people of the value of these new technologies, the value of a new interface or the way it's personalized if the customer's not actually coming to see the car? They're looking at all in a virtual environment. And it raises a lot of questions about all of the interaction that will go on between the car manufacturers through their dealers to the customers and how we can convince them of the value of the technology. I think for many years in automotive you've said trying to foresee the future. I remember when MP3 players started coming through and iPhones coming through, people realizing within the company that they have to find a way to interface this into the car because people want that music now. So innovation has always been a challenge. I think the bigger challenge now is as the industries converge, the technologies continue to develop, and we have to see how the next steps can go on. So I think what I'd like to do is just in the next minutes that we have is just address the panel. I've a couple of questions that I will present. Let me just run through a couple of questions first, and then we'll open the floor to you all to have an opportunity to raise your question, or even just make a comment or an observation that's relevant to the discussion we're having. But first, I'd like to put the panelists a little bit on the spot, and we have a couple of microphones on the table, and I will start with Sylvain because that's where we started. We've seen different innovations already today. You've talked about a number yourself that you see developing. What are the three areas of innovation that you think will change the whole panorama of the automotive industry?
The first one is the human-machine interfaces. This is it's a key technologies, human-machine. Then there is a sustainable propulsion systems. Yes, non-carbon propulsion systems. And the third one is the new materials to design soft skins, working on new skins for the car. Skins made with multifunctional materials, energy, information, style, design, materials, adaptive materials, for example, which can provide with new shapes, adaptive shapes depending on speeds and on environmental situations.
Thanks very much. So the challenge now, it's like an old children's game where you have to add to the list of innovations as we move along, or develop one of those innovations a little bit more in the way that you feel is going to be relevant.
Big part of innovation changing the world of automotive for me is really the software. Is really all this experience as software, and this is one of the difficulty we've had on the discussion this morning, because we were mainly talking about really hardware assembling, how to do it. But one of the big change in the future about automotive, the way we will use it, is how really we connect the car with the user, we connect the car with the world. The car will be more intelligent, and you will use it in another way. So software is a very strong enabler really to change the automotive.
Thank you. So into the software world and the world of information.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both Sylvain and Bertrand on their points. I think they're both big innovative ones. I think one that I would mention is one I briefly touched on a moment ago, but I think its implications are very big, and we're only just getting there, and that is the question of ownership. What I see happening, and obviously I'm not alone, is younger generations, people under 30, 35 years old, less interested, especially in large metropolitan areas, in actually owning a car. And if you view a car as an asset, imagine it a little bit like a bond or a stock, it's very easy to imagine the whole question of mobility being repackaged. And I think we've just started that. And if you imagine that, that will have a lot of implications for how cars are designed, serviced, sold, etc. And I think that will turn the industry, or could turn the industry upside down, much like, if you just think of it as a financial world and the kind of innovation that happens there. I'll certainly agree with software and information.
Thank you, Brian. No, your view as one of this young, connected generation.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think I'm a part of that generation anyway. Well, everything everyone said is really, really important. There's not really much I can add, really, other than the fact that it has to be, innovation has to be relevant. If it's not useful, it's meaningless. So I would basically say authenticity and relevance is the key things we have to keep in mind when we do this, because just putting more technology and putting more things don't necessarily solve the problem. It has to be in a good way, in a precise way. But everything everyone said combined with that would make a dream car.
Brian, I think from what you are learning, what you've learned over the past years about the nature of the customer and the way that they think, raises the question as to how they're making their decisions always and what they really want. Now, a lot of new technology we see originally always came from premium brands. It drifted down into the lower segments, as they're called. But sometimes, and what are you seeing from the customer? Is the demand actually coming from people who wouldn't normally want a premium car, or is there a demand that you see in this changing ownership model that asks for the technologies but without the investment?
Yeah, it's both, unquestionably. I think where I see the biggest activity, dynamism, is either at the very high end or at the very low end. I think it's toughest for those who are caught in the middle. The kind of mass volume brands who are getting squeezed from the margins from the lower end and aren't getting the margins at the high end. On both sides, there's tremendous innovation, whether it's for small city cars that are electric or highly mobile. I'm thinking of things like Twizzys and so on are pretty a high degree of innovation. At the other end, I think we all see what's going on with the premium brands, and they're the ones who can afford the huge R&D budgets to put in all kinds of new top-of-the-line expensive technologies. I worry more about those brands and models that are stuck in the middle.
Yeah, and about where to apply innovation, I think the premium car is a good example in the way we've been working in the past. To make premium car, to put innovation on the premium car is a little bit like the Titanic when you try to make bigger boats. This is the end of visibility of the end of the system. It was just a way to make just the car we know, but a little bit better. It is a little bit more performance, more speed, more perceived quality, more soft on the seat and on the armrest, a better sound quality, just a little bit more safety, 30 airbags, something you even don't have at home. A climate system that you can tune at 0.3, 0.5 degrees, something that is, you even don't know what does that mean. So it's really to push to the maximum. When you don't know what to do, let's just do as usual, but better. And now the big change, I think, it's to move from this car object. We know we have the best car in the world, we have perfect cars, and at the end, we've had perfect cars, but we've had the crisis. That means that even with these perfect cars, we are not able to sell them. So we need to change this business and to think about usage, users, mobility, how the world will change, and how do we play with this. If we just want to make better cars, this is not what people want.
I'm talking about these new users. I was very impressed that in both your companies there is a lot of activity going on in Asia, in China, in India, in South America, and you have research going on over there, obviously for a reason. So how do you see the role for innovation in developing these new markets with customers who perhaps never really experienced cars but know they really want one?
I confirm that for the future, the user will be the driver. because in China, for example, newcomers for automotive, en fait, in the first step, were worried to have a statutory car, yes, an impressive car, a car for the neighbors to see that they were successful. But now it's changing in China. People now want cars with air quality systems. They want reliable cars. The reliability is very important. But to get reliable cars, you have to create simple cars. Very simple. So as you said, it's no more the time to get more and more technology for a car, for a premium car. It's not relevant, as you said. Yes, we have to design cars for users, simple cars, reliable cars. Very important, and with a life cycle compatible with sustainability. So probably the materials for the cars of the future will be more and more materials linked to the nature, to biology.
Okay. So would you like to add something?
Yeah, and in terms of new usages, I think that there is a big change. For all the car lovers, and I'm not a car lover, so it's easier for me to try to design and to create in a different way, but we've tried to make cars to have a fun to drive. It was a couple of years ago, and the name of the car was the name of the engine, by the way. It was a GTI, it was a 2 liters, etc. So that was really the essence of the car. After that, some people have invented really the car to live, so it was more, what do you do except for driving, so the car to live. Even now, the new usage, the most important usage, if you live in an urban city, you buy the car not to drive it or not to live in, but the car to park. If you buy a smart, you buy the car not to drive it, you buy the easiness to park it. So, and the 3D is a good example. It's definitely a car to park, the only way to really get at the restaurant and just to park it in front of the restaurant. And the next usage is the car also. What does the car when you are not in? The car could be connected with your house, can send you information, can share energies. So the car as an asset, as part of the ecosystem. So plenty of usage, even if you are not in. So this is the kind of usage that are changing. But for sure, we need to stop making cars just to drive. Of course, we need to make cars. It's not incompatible. It's not a replacement. It's another layer. We will have people that will buy a car to park or car sharing, and they will love to have a nice old Porsche in their garage. You will have all in parallel, of course.
Thank you. So we're just going to touch a little bit on sustainability, but then I'll be opening the floor to questions. So start thinking about your questions and what you'd like to ask with relation to what we've been talking about so far. I think you've touched already on the legislation on clean air and air quality. I remember some years ago doing a calculation when there was terrible air pollution in Athens, that if we ran a fleet of DCATs, which was the emission control technology at the time, through the city, the air would actually be cleaner that was coming out of the cars than were being taken in. So there are technologies around that can do certain things. Sustainability is a question. Legislation is coming on end of life, on recycling of vehicles. We need to change the thinking on materials. So I'd like to go back to Nair and ask him a little bit about, what about materials? With your background in industrial design, do you see there are new opportunities with materials and with things like Silva mentioned, like the biomaterials?
Absolutely. Of course, we are getting better at everything we do. Things are getting more complex, but we are getting better in terms of biodegradable and all of that stuff. It touches again on the consumer side of things. Consumers are much smarter now. They know what goes into the vehicle. They expect things from the vehicle. So still, sustainability is going to be a given. You will not be able to put a car on the road if it's not sustainable in a few years' time. So sustainability, it goes without saying that we need it. In terms of material, we're not there yet. In terms of legislation, maybe we beat the technology a little bit because of the necessity. But I'm not a material engineer. There's a few probably here around which can tell you better. But I think the game is shifting from green to smart, which makes the whole difference.
And Brian, do you see that demand for sustainability being a point that the customers are wanting now, or is it something that's starting to move into their area of concern?
Yeah, I mean, if you look only at the question of what are the kinds of searches that people do when they're car shopping, that is unquestionably a very fast-growing area, which indicates to me that that is a topic that they're more and more aware of or more interested in. You know, it's also evident when you just look at the kind of product that's coming out. But definitely, if you look at the kind of internet activity and searches, blogging, and so on, it's a very, very important topic.
Thank you. So I'd like to open the floor. If there are any questions, please just raise your hand and a microphone will come towards you. Just briefly introduce yourself and then pose your question. Nothing at the moment. Obviously, all the questions are being answered as we go along, but don't worry, I have plenty more questions. I mean, we saw from the presentations that the idea of open innovation is coming through, that different people should be able to present ideas and push those ideas in to the playing field, to bring them to the fore, to allow there to be more intellectual capital pushed into that. I think, Sylvain, you mentioned it first in your presentation, so perhaps you'd like to have a few words about open innovation and how that can help sort of empower the industry in the future.
The automotive industry is an industry based on engineers. And there is a real culture of engineering. Yes, we have more of 120 specific skills. And it's difficult when you have so many skilled engineers to be out of the box, because experts in each technical field look after the standards, the referentials, and to be out of the box, it means in some way transgressing standards. So to do that, it's necessary to be open, and also to try to address the question of non-invented here. The syndrome of non-invented here is very strong in automotive companies, and so through the open innovation, we have partnerships with small companies, startups, universities, engineering schools, and all what we get by sharing problematics, and it's good because all that the pepits, the nuggets that we detect, we try to integrate them in our industrial process.
Yeah, open innovation also, it's not only the technologies changing over years, but the way we innovate has changed over years. In the past, it was completely secret. Not only secret in the company, but secret in the design and in the innovation room. It was secret for the other part of the company. The most famous secret innovation, and they've changed of the culture, was really Michelin, where it was even a myth of this plant in a truck to make tires and the motor wheel. That was really completely secret. Only the CEO of Michelin, Mr. Michelin, was aware about it, and nobody was able to talk. So we try now to open it within the company, so to bring our plans, marketing, even IT. How do we not only innovate the product, but we innovate the company? So innovate within the company. The level we live now is to have open innovation to partners and customers. So that's really where we are working on. We've just received, we'll be a finalist on the PACE Award, that is the big innovation worldwide. And this PACE Award is something we've done with Dassault Systèmes in the project I've presented. It's a platform to to mix a little bit Katia and Facebook, how people can really share together between different companies easily. How do we open the room of the studio and we make easy connectivity, easy connection, not only through emails, through also graphics, through 3D parts, and we bring the 3D, because automotive is about 3D, we open the 3D to the non-3D people, because now 3D and its automotive is limited to CATIA designers and stylist designers and 3D product design. So we want to open it. And the next level, but we are not there yet. I don't know if we need to go there, when we need to go there, but this is the speech of Google, of course. It's is to bring the crowd or the full customers that are ready to innovate for free for you. Talking about Dassault system again, but they've just launched last year a vehicle that has been completely designed online through a community for free. So everybody has done their own parts, and now you can get the car. Everything is done, has been validated, and you can get in this. The plants are really a garage when you get in and you make the parts. So that's the next level we are not in yet. Is ready to bring all the consumers ready that are ready and to innovate for you, specifically in automotive, because it's a lot of passion about automotive, so people want to get in.
I confirm, yes. We have set up a creativity challenge 1 year ago for Citroën, and it was a success. We got many, more than 200 proposals from people on the web. It was after it's difficult. It's not so easy to integrate the proposals, because many of these proposals are already known. But it's very fruitful for our teams and design teams, for example. Now we are on the way of a creativity challenge in Lausanne, at the École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne, on the well-being on board. And we have also many responses. It's very efficient.
So there's actually a direction into open source and bringing in these ideas together. And maybe, Neil, you'd like to say a few words about your experience there. And then I think Brian has something to say.
Well, I'm sure he has, because Google has been doing that for a long time. But in my point, I mean, Visteon and Peugeot and, a lot of OEMs, they sponsor a lot of competitions out there. And what Bertrand is referring to, the local motors, they build the car I mean, that's my project also touches the point on that. If you can connect all these people and everyone has an idea and everyone is, equally educated and equally willing to contribute, then you have a fantastic network, and the amount of information you can get from people, and it's endless. And so that's why I really do think that in the future people will have much more influence on companies, or at least those who are willing to listen. And as far as self-manufacturing goes, that remains to be seen. In my project, I portray the technology that could be possible. It still goes a long way. People can make things out of ordinary stuff. They could have always made things, Just now, because they have a 3D printer, they can print out a plate. Doesn't mean they couldn't have made a plate by themselves a long time ago anyway. But it's getting people together, the social aspect of the thing, and that leads to collecting all the information.
Well, I would build on that just in a point, because I was thinking that the one issue that needs to be addressed to make all of this happen is actually the culture of innovation in any given company needs to be there. Automotive companies by their nature are large, capital-intensive, manufacturing, and consequently conservative. It's very difficult. It's usually any discussion or any decision is around all of the reasons to say no. The beauty of a company like Google, which I admit is not in large-scale manufacturing, at least not yet, is a culture of yes. And every engineer has 20% of his time, which is the equivalent of 1 day a week, to do projects of their own choosing. And that is where many of the innovations that Google has come up with have occurred, and those kinds of projects have blossomed. And it goes beyond that to even just the standard projects. If you use something like Google Search, at any given moment, there are literally hundreds of pilot tests going on, A/B/C testing against different variations of what if we did it this way, what if we do it that way. If I type something, it's not going to be into the Google search box, not going to be what you see. What fascinates me as a potential for the automotive industry when we talk about these kind of innovations and mass customization and you know, printings and so on, is can we bring that attitude, that mindset, and that approach to the automotive industry, perhaps not quite the way you can do in a software technology company, but nevertheless, where you can be doing various ABC testing across a variety of different product innovations simultaneously, and consequently really ramp up the speed of innovation. And can you bring the corporate culture to a world where that is possible?
Thank you, Brian. Last chance for questions. We have a question on it. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a question to Brian Coleman, Google. So you highlighted the disconnect between the evolution of the digital speed on one hand, and then the constraints of our industry cycle, typically 5 years. Would you have more concrete example or recommendation that you're making, to typical recommendation you would make to OEMs to try and reconcile both aspects?
It's a big challenge. There's no question, and the challenge is going to come in the plant, because I could easily say, look, you've got all of this information that's moving day to day, hour to hour about what people want. In a perfect world, you'd feed that back to the manufacturing plant, and you would have a high level of customization and innovation going on. That's the perfect world, the dream world. I'm not naive, even though I guess we're all supposed to be up here, to know that that's not easy. It's easier to say than to do. But I think the one piece of innovation advice, if I can give it, is the amount of information available is enormous. And that was kind of what I was trying to say before. Whether it's from tools like the internet, your own websites, your Facebook pages and so on, that to understand your customers, it's right there. I think at the end of one of the earlier workshops, there was a discussion, we wish we knew the customers better. It's there. The information is right there waiting for you. And it's also, in many cases, in your cars. So if you put those two and two together, the potential is enormous to figure out what is it customers are really doing. It's not always what they say they're doing. And what is it they're really looking for? Because again, I can go and ask them. It's not always what they say they're looking for.
Thank you, Brian. We're running into the last few minutes, so I would like another question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Mark Rosenbaum, MS3D. Yes, it's been very interesting what I heard, but I'm amazed. If I make a remark and if I foresee what the future is, then the next car manufacturers will be called Amazon, Google, and Facebook. And that's what Mr. Leroy said this morning. Forget about information, but I haven't heard anything about technology. I've heard a lot about data systems, about information, but I haven't heard anything about technology. If we remember, well, I'm too old, not old enough, but in the early 20th century, all cars were electric. Okay, so we are back to the early 20th century. But what's next in technology? In the car industry, what's next? Means we were in anticipation, we were talking about air cushions, we were talking about trains of cars, we were talking about a lot of things. And here I hear, well, Google, Amazon, and eBay.
I spoke of sustainable propulsion systems. You are true, at the beginning of the automotive industry, cars were electric. And then the thermal engines were winners, yes, because they were more reliable and with a larger range autonomy than electricity. Now we are again in the electricity area, but it's not the end of the story. I'm sure that there will again a new era which will be thermodynamic. Propulsion systems which will use new fuels, carbon-free fuels. And these systems will not be based on internal combustion. There will be quite a change in the technology structure of the engines. And we work on that for the future. So, yes, we can speak of technology. There is also the question of materials. Materials will make a big change in the structure of the car, on the body. On the body car. When I speak of a skin, the skin, it's because I'm sure that in the future the cars will have not the structure that we know for the presently. It will be the end of the body in white structure, and there will be first composite structures. It's now on the way. Yes, in the next years there will be more and more composite in the bodies of the cars. But then after the composites, there will be a new structure with a skeleton, a specific skeleton which will protect the unit, the cell unit, which will host passengers and drivers. But there will be a skin around the car, and this skin will be both a protective skin and also a multifunctional skin. So we can speak of technology.
Yeah, we can also bridge on this kind of technology also some active noise cancellation, so that you feel also very good and you don't need a glass, or you don't need a very stiff material just to manage the sound, but you play with your audio system and noise cancellation. This is what we are working on. I think what we try to explain is we moved away from just a techno push. So of course you have technology, but does not need to be at the start of the story. We've been living 50 years of just a new technology is nice. I've got a couple de bingo, new technology, I've got something new. And people wanted to buy technology when they bought a car. This is not right anymore. So what is the usage? And only after that, what is the technology we need to achieve this and to fulfill this usage?
I'm no engineer, and I probably don't have the qualifications to answer the technological question, but just my personal observation, the car industry is always obsessed with new technology. New technology is not an objective, it's a means. Your objective is to make products that fulfill people's needs. And if you follow the needs, you will get, you'll find the answer with technology. In my personal opinion, I think in the future you will see everything together. Internal combustion engines will still be here, even 20 or 50 years' time, if you ask me. Electrical ones, for everything has its specific advantage and its specific needs. And like you said, sometimes we need this and sometimes we need that. It has to be relevant. And, technology is now given. We are all expecting technology. We are all living, we are immersed in it. So it's not an objective, it's technology. It's something we do.
Thank you very much, Nir, and thank you to the panel. I think as in conclusion, and it was actually a very good question, because what I had noted myself was that we moved away from the question of technology, what it will be, what will create something new, to the point where, as Nir says, it's the vehicle that's serving the customer needs a bit more. Technology with a function rather than for its own sake. The key technologies that we talked about were human-machine interface, human at the beginning. Sustainability, well, that's about how we live with the earth. Materials, well, materials are functional, but they are really about the interface between the person and the vehicle and the environment. So we're seeing maybe a change in the way that technology is being used and applied to support the future development of the automotive industry. So I would like to again thank the panel, Sylvain, Bertrand, Nir, and Brian. I would like to thank you all for your attention. It's always hard, the session first after lunch, but I was very much appreciated, your attention certainly. We have time for a coffee break now until 4 o'clock, where I would then ask you all to come back for the closing plenary, where we have a couple of, again, very interesting and I think very motivating presentations to come. Thank you.